Welcome back to this lecture series on quantum chemistry. Today I am going to discuss about spherical polar coordinates. Understanding spherical polar coordinates is very important because we are going to start the discussion of rotational motion, and then we are going to learn about the solving Schrodinger equation for atoms and molecules. So for that the spherical polar coordinate will be very useful. So before going to start rotational motion, right, let me introduce what is spherical polar coordinate and what are all the important information that we should keep in mind for spherical polar coordinates. See, whenever a system has a circular or cylindrical symmetry, right, whenever system has circular symmetry or circular symmetry, then spherical symmetry and spherical symmetry. Here I am not going to introduce cylindrical symmetry, which we'll discuss separately. My main focus is on circular symmetry and spherical symmetry. Whenever system has circular symmetry or spherical symmetry, then if you convert the Cartesian coordinates x, y, z into spherical polar coordinate, in spherical polar coordinate we represent spherical polar coordinate with the coordinates r, theta and phi. Right? If you have in a system, if a system has circular symmetry or spherical symmetry, it is better to convert Cartesian coordinates into spherical polar coordinates. Why? Because when you convert the Cartesian coordinate into spherical polar coordinate, then number of variables get minimized. Your wave function depends only on minimum number of variables, and you can very easily solve the system, the Schrodinger equation. So this, if you apply the symmetry, right, circular symmetry as or spherical symmetry, you have lot of benefit in solving the Schrodinger equation, right? Then what is meant by Cartesian coordinate space, and what is meant by Cartesian coordinate, and what is meant by spherical polar coordinate? See, suppose I'll take three perpendicular axes x, y and z. Now let us take some point in this space, say P, and this point P is represented by the Cartesian coordinates. So assume that this point has some x value, some y value and some z value. So in Cartesian coordinate space, you can represent any point, right, with the coordinates x, y, z. Right? Now if you want to represent a point in spherical polar coordinate, what you have to do, listen, I'll take the same space, I'll keep this as x, y and z. The axis systems remain same. What I'm going to do, I'm going to represent the same point P, with a different notation. What is meant by that? That is, this is origin, the line joining the origin, the line joining the origin to the point, it has some length, let it be r. So it has a coordinate r. R represents the distance between the point to the origin. Then this point has some angle, from plus z axis. That is what I'm saying. The line joining origin to the plus z, or the plus z axis, and the line joining the origin to the point. The angle between these two is what we call as theta. So when the points moves from plus z to minus z, the theta value increases. Right? When a point is present on plus z, theta value is 0. As the point moves and goes below minus z, theta value increases, and the maximum value of theta is 180 degree. So the second coordinate is actually theta. Then third coordinate, listen, let me draw a projection of this point to the xy plane. Okay, so in xy plane I'll draw a projection from point P on the xy plane. Okay, this projected point, let me represent that as P prime. Now join the origin to the point P prime, and you'll get a new line. Listen, from plus x axis to this line. Okay, that is the line joining, or the line that connects the origin to the point P prime. Okay, and this angle is what we call as phi angle. Okay, so a point, right, is represented with the coordinate r, theta and phi. Okay, these coordinates are called as spherical polar coordinate. Okay, let me give this information again so that you can easily understand. R is nothing but the distance between origin to the point P. And what is theta? Theta is the angle between the plus z axis and the line joining the origin to the point P. Okay, and another coordinate is phi. What is phi? You draw a projection from the point P to the xy plane, and that projection will touch this plane at one point. Let us take that point as P prime, then connect the origin to the point P prime. Okay, now measure the angle between plus x axis to this line. That angle is what we call as phi angle. And remember here, what are the possible values of r, theta, phi? The range for r is from 0 to infinity. Okay, r value will go from 0 to infinity. And what is the range for theta? Theta will go from 0 to 180 degree, or I can also represent as pi. And the angle phi will go from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so r is the distance, theta and phi are angles. Theta is usually called as azimuthal angle. Theta is called as azimuthal angle, and phi is usually called as polar angle. Okay, then by using trigonometric identities, okay, suppose if I join this point, okay, to the z axis, and this z value and r can be connected by cos theta, right? So by using the trigonometric identities, we can relate this Cartesian coordinate and the spherical polar coordinate. Okay, which I'm not going to do that. It's very simple one. I'll just leave it to you, and I'm going to give you the final expressions. What is that? What is the relation between x and the spherical polar coordinate? X is equal to r sin theta into cos phi. Okay, and y is equal to r sin theta sin phi, and z is equal to r cos theta. Okay, this is the relation between Cartesian coordinate and the spherical polar coordinates, right? Very, very important. Keep this in mind. Okay, then here since cos theta is equal to z by r, we can say that cos theta equal to z by r. So if you know the z and r, you can find theta, right? Or if you know theta and one of this component, you can find the other component. Okay, yeah, keep this in mind, very, very important. And y by x, if I divide y by x, okay, see, sin theta cancel here. Sin pi by cos pi will give you tan phi. So tan phi is equal to y by x. This is another important points. Keep all these things in mind. Then this r value is nothing but equal to square root of x square plus y square plus z square. R is the distance between the origin to the point P. Okay, and this distance can be found by using the standard distance formula. Okay, root of x minus 0 square square root of x minus 0 square plus y minus 0 square plus z minus z square. So that will give you this. Okay, so r is equal to root of x square plus y square plus z square, right? Yeah, keep all these things in mind. Then I'll give a few more information on spherical polar coordinates. What is that? Okay, in spherical polar coordinate, suppose I'll take a sphere. Kindly bear with me. It's a sphere, and yeah, I'll represent the sphere like this. Okay, this is the origin, and I'll take this axis as y-axis. I'll take this axis as z-axis, and this axis as x-axis, and another point. Let me draw like this. Okay, yeah. Now assume that theta, okay, value goes like this, right? Suppose if you have a point here, theta value goes in this manner, right? Or you can take point anywhere. Okay, suppose I'll take a point here. This is the origin, and connect this origin to that point. Okay, the angle between z-axis and the line joining the point is theta, and this distance is r. Okay, those things and all you know, right? So it is a typical system where these spherical polar coordinates are actually used. Now, in this case, if you in this three-dimensional spherical space, okay, here remember r is not constant, r can go to any value. So in this three-dimensional space, you take a small volume element, such that the dimensions of the volume element, okay, length, let it be dx, and breadth, height, okay, let me take the dimensions as dx, dy, and dz. What is the volume of this small volume element? Okay, the volume is usually represented as d tau. In Cartesian coordinate space, d tau is nothing but dx into dy into dz. The product of these three will give you the volume of a small element of volume in this Cartesian space. Okay, what is the small volume? Okay, in spherical polar coordinate. In the Cartesian coordinate, it is the product of dx, dy, dz. Okay, in spherical polar coordinate, right, this can be given as Jacobian into dr into d theta into d phi. Okay, this is called Jacobian. You can find the Jacobian by writing the Jacobian determinant. Okay, so Jacobian can be found by using the determinant dou, I'll take x, dou x by dou r, dou x by dou theta, and dou x by dou phi. Similarly, dou y by dou r, dou y by dou theta, and dou y by dou phi. Then dou z by dou r, dou z by dou theta, and dou z by dou phi. Okay, you know the how x and spherical polar coordinate are related, and how y and spherical polar coordinate are related, and how z and spherical polar coordinates are related. Okay, so I have given the equation here. You know all these relations. Okay, just differentiate this by r, you will get dou x by dou r. Similarly, differentiate x by x with respect to theta, similarly x with respect to phi. Okay, and find all these values, substitute these values here, and find the Jacobian value. Okay, Jacobian for three-dimensional space will comes out as, let me give the final result here directly. Okay, it comes out as r square into sine theta. Jacobian is r square into sine theta. Therefore, d tau, the small volume element, okay, in three-dimensional space, is given as in Cartesian coordinate space, it is the product of dx, dy, and dz, where dx, dy, dz are dimensions of the small cubic element of space, right? In Cartesian coordinates, sorry, in spherical polar coordinate, now we have found out the Jacobian. I'll substitute that value here, is equal to r square sine theta into dr into d theta into d phi. Okay, and usually we write like this: r square dr into sine theta into d theta into d phi. Usually we write like this. So this gives you the volume of the small element of space, okay, small cubical element of space, right, in three-dimensional space, which is represented in spherical polar coordinate. Okay, if you use Cartesian coordinate, d tau is the product of these three. If you use spherical polar coordinate, d tau is equal to this. Okay, this product, right? This is another information you should keep in mind. Then suppose assume that a particle is moving on a ring of constant radius r. Okay, suppose assume that a particle, I have some particle here, let the mass of the particle be m, and this particle is moving, right, in this ring, and the radius of the ring, let it be r. Okay, where r is a fixed value. Suppose r is constant. Okay, here listen, I'll take this axis as z axis. This is my z axis, and this is the let us take this as y, and this as the x axis. Okay, now I have a point here. Listen, if you join this origin to the point, and the angle between plus x to the line, to this line, is what we call as phi angle. So if this particle is moving only in this ring, right, in this case, theta value, what is theta? Theta is the angle between plus z axis to this line, and angle, this theta angle is 90 degree. As long as the particle moves only in this plane, okay, theta value remains constant. So here theta is 90 degree, which is a constant. That means this particle is moving only in xy plane. So the variables, right, suppose assume that r is also not constant. Then in that case, the two variables are r and phi. Okay, so in 2D plane, right, if particle is moving on a ring, let us assume that moment as two-dimensional motion. Okay, so in this case, you can write the function depends on two coordinates x and y in Cartesian coordinate. So in Cartesian coordinate, okay, we represent the movement of the particle, right, in terms of x and y. So you'll have this dou square by dou x square term and dou square by dou y square term if the particle is moving in xy plane. Okay, particle is moving, let me write here, particle is restricted to move only in xy plane. Okay, and the axis of rotation, here axis of rotation is z axis, right, the axis of rotation remains same. Okay, in this case, the motion of the particle or the wave function depends on two coordinate x and y. So you require this second order the partial differential quantity and this second order partial differential quantity. Okay, the Hamiltonian consists of these two parts. What is the equivalent of this in spherical polar coordinate? Okay, yeah, that's very, very important. The equivalent of this you can find by using some algebra you can use, right, or otherwise you can find them directly. Let me give you the answer directly. If r is constant, right, if r constant and theta also constant, right, this value should be equal to 1 by r square into dou square by dou phi square. Keep this in mind, this is very important. See, when you, since it has circular symmetry, if you change the Cartesian coordinate into spherical polar coordinate, you have an advantage. What is the advantage? Here the function depends on two variables, whereas here the function depends on only one variable, that is phi. Okay, so this is very, very important. Keep this in mind. If a particle is moving on a ring with the constant radius, and if the ring remains in one particular plane, say for example XY plane, okay, that means the axis of rotation remains same. In that case, this these operators, the sum of these two, so dou square by dou x square plus dou x square by dou y square, this operator is represented as 1 by r square into dou square by dou phi square in spherical polar coordinate. What is the advantage? Here you have to look upon two variables, but here only one. That's the advantage. Okay, yeah. Similarly, in the case of spherical symmetry, right, if particle is moving on a sphere of radius r, in that case both theta and phi value will change. Okay, so let me just show that. I have already given this point, but anyway, let me just show you this point. Origin, let us take this axis as z axis, this axis as y, and this axis as x. So this is x, this is y, and this is z. Okay, now I'll take some point, say some point here P, and connect this point to the origin, and this distances are the angle between plus z axis to this line is theta, and the phi angle, you have to draw a projection. Okay, so this point has three coordinate r, theta and phi, right? Suppose if the particle is moving on a sphere, right, in this case you can write the operator. In this case you require this operator actually, dou square by dou x square plus dou square by dou y square plus dou square by dou z square. You require this operator in Hamiltonian. Okay, this operator will present in Hamiltonian. Actually it is called Laplacian operator, del square. So del square Laplacian operator in Cartesian coordinate is this. What is the equivalent spherical polar coordinate of Laplacian operator? Okay, which is equal to, we have derivation actually, I'm not going to do that, but at least you just try to remember this expression, which is very, very important. What is that? 1 by r square into dou by dou r into r square dou by dou r. See here, r, theta, phi, all are variables. If all are variables, then we have these coordinates. Okay, so we have radial coordinate plus 1 by r square sine theta into dou by dou theta into sine theta dou by dou theta, plus one more term 1 by r square sine square theta into dou square by dou phi square. Okay, so this is the equivalent of Laplacian operator in spherical polar coordinate. Okay, so this is another important point, keep this in mind. Suppose if I fix r as constant, right, if r is constant, then the function, wave function, depends only on two variables, theta and phi. In that case, right, if r is constant, in that case function depends only on two variables, that is theta and phi. But in Cartesian coordinate you have to consider all the three. Okay, see, you have to consider all the three operators, that is dou square by dou x square plus dou square by dou y square plus dou square by dou z square. You have to consider all the three variables even if r is constant. R is constant, but theta and phi are variables. Okay, in this case, even in this case, you require all these three variables in Cartesian coordinate. I'm sorry, sum of all these operators. Okay, whereas the corresponding operator or Laplacian operator, right, in spherical polar coordinate, okay, in spherical polar coordinate, that's r square term does not exist because r is constant. Therefore, I'll remove the r square term. Okay, and what are the remaining terms we have? The remaining terms are, let me represent this as 1 by r square sine theta into dou by dou theta into sine theta dou by dou theta plus 1 by r square sine square theta into dou square by dou phi square. Since r square is constant, you can also take r square out, okay, and you can write a simplified expression. Right, now rotational motion involve angular momentum. Okay, any rotational motion involve angular momentum. So what is the angular momentum, right? Or total angular square of the total angular momentum, square of the total angular momentum, right? In okay, before that, sorry. So any rotational motion, I'm going to discuss rotational motion in the next lecture. So before that, let me just introduce these informations. Rotational motion involves angular momentum. Okay. So in angular momentum, you know very well, angular momentum is a vector, so it can be resolved into three components, right? So the x component of angular momentum, okay, x component of the angular momentum operator is given as, right, in Cartesian coordinate space. First let me give in Cartesian coordinate space. In Cartesian coordinate space it is given as, since we have x here, you have to apply this formula h by 2 pi I, or you can also write, okay, first let me write, so y into dou by dou z minus z into dou by dou y. You can also write this as h by 2 pi is h bar, multiply numerator and denominator by I, so you'll get I in the numerator, I square in the denominator, I square is minus 1, so you can write minus I h bar into this quantity. What is that? Y into dou by dou z minus z into dou by dou y. What is the corresponding operator in spherical polar coordinate? Okay, yeah, so here also we have derivation. I'm not going to do that. I'll give you the derivation. I'll give you the answer directly. In spherical polar coordinate, Lx operator, right, in spherical is given as I into h bar into sine theta dou by dou theta plus cot theta into cos phi into dou by dou phi. This is the Lx operator, right, in Cartesian coordinate space, Cartesian coordinate, and in spherical polar coordinate. Similarly, y component of angular momentum operator can be given as, in Cartesian coordinate it is given as I h bar into, we have y here, so we should write z first, z into dou by dou x minus x into dou by dou z. Okay, and in spherical polar coordinate, this y component of angular momentum is given as plus I h bar, okay, into cos phi into dou by dou theta minus cot theta into sin phi into dou by dou phi. This is the y component of angular momentum operator in spherical polar coordinate. Similarly, the z component of angular momentum operator in Cartesian coordinate, it is minus I h bar into z, so x into dou by dou y minus y into dou by dou x, and the corresponding operator in spherical polar coordinate is minus I into h bar into dou by dou phi. Remember all this expression, very very important. And see here, if you look on these three operators, Lx, Ly, Lz, okay, Lz is a very simple one, right? Minus I h bar dou by dou phi. So that's why people usually prefer Lz component, Z component of angular momentum, because the operator is simple, so you can easily apply and you can find the result very quickly, right, compared to these two operators, right? Yeah. Then let me give a few more informations. And here this is very important. Square of the total angular momentum operator is equal to, okay, L square x component of the square angular momentum, okay, plus Ly square operator plus Lz square operator. Sum of these three will give you a square of the total angular momentum operator. Okay, and in Cartesian coordinate you have to add everything, right? You have to add everything. So that is very simple. I am going to write the L square operator in spherical polar coordinate. That is very important. Okay, so what is the L square operator in spherical polar coordinate? Listen, L square operator is an angular momentum operator which acts only on theta and phi function. Which acts only on the function consists of theta and phi part. Okay, very important. So what's the operator? The operator is this, minus h bar square, okay, into 1 by sine theta into dou by dou theta into sine theta dou by dou theta plus 1 by sine square theta into dou square by dou phi square. Okay, this is the square of the total angular momentum operator in spherical polar coordinate. Okay, then this is another important information. This h bar square, you keep it as such. This operator, that is this part, okay, this part is usually called as Legendrian operator, okay, lambda square. Okay, so what is Legendrian operator? Legendrian operator is nothing but this part, 1 by sine theta dou by dou theta into sine theta dou by dou theta plus 1 by sine square theta into dou square by dou phi square. This is called the Legendrian operator. This is also very important, okay, for solving rigid rotor problem. Okay, if rigid rotor rotates in three-dimensional space, okay, in those case this will be very useful. Okay, yeah, keep all these informations in mind. We are going to utilize these operators and angular momentums, right, wherever it is required. Then before wind up here, I'll give this commutation relations between these angular momentum operators. Okay, you know very well, Hamiltonian operator commutes with the square of the total orbital angular momentum operator. Okay, in the case of hydrogen atom, in general they commute. Okay, you know very well, if two operators commute, then they have common set of eigenfunctions. What is meant by that? See, wave function, there is the function which is eigenfunction of Hamiltonian operator. Let me write this as psi. Okay, what is eigenfunction? When you apply the operator on the function, you will get the same function multiplied by the eigenvalue. For Hamiltonian operator, eigenvalue is energy. Okay, if you apply L square operator on the same function, yes, you will get the same function again. That means the function psi is also an eigenfunction of L square operator with some eigenvalue. Let me give that eigenvalue as alpha. You will get some eigenvalue. Okay, that eigenvalue is nothing but square of the total orbital angular momentum. Right. Then we also know that L square operator, okay, L square operator will commute with Lx. L square operator will also commute with the Ly, and L square operator also commutes with Lz. They all commute. Commute means they have common set of eigenfunctions. So you can determine the L square of the angular momentum and the x component of angular momentum simultaneously. Okay, it means simultaneous measurements are possible. They do not obey Heisenberg constancy principle and all. Okay, but we preferably we choose this. I told you already, because the z component of angular momentum operator is very simple to use. Okay, so usually people prefer this commutation, that is L square and Lz, because Lz operator It's a very simple operator and very easy to use. Okay, yeah, so this is another information. Therefore I can also say that Hamiltonian operator, since L square commute with Lz, L square commute with Lx, Ly, Hamiltonian also will commute with this, because H will commute with L square. You know very well, if A and B commute and B and C commute, then A and C must commute. Therefore Hamiltonian operator must commute with these component operators. So they also have common set of eigenfunctions. Right? Yeah. I stop here. We'll continue the rotational motion in the next lecture onwards. Right? Thank you.